Hello and welcome to Midday Report, coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Serhii Beskrestnov. And we start off in Krakow, where Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz is hosting his counterparts from France, Germany, Italy and the United Kingdom as part of the E5 format. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja, Kallas and NATO Deputy Secretary General Radmila Shekerinska are also attending. European and Euro-Atlantic defense, hybrid threats and Russia's war in Ukraine top the meeting's agenda. Our correspondent Kaja is on the ground. Good afternoon, Diana. So what are the key developments so far? Any important pledges?
Good afternoon, Sally. That's right. Well, the press conference just ended here behind me. We are in Krakow. So you said it yourself. I mean, this event here, this press conference was hosted by Polish Defense Minister Kosiniak-Kamysz. Now, the slogan for this one-hour conference was, of course, it is our task to deter any threat coming from Russia, and we are prepared to do so. And these didn't just come from Kosiniak-Kamysz's own words in his introductory remarks, but it came from everybody who was standing at that podium, all the ministers. Now, of course, many important points were discussed. You mentioned, of course, yourself, but particularly highlighted was having a strong, self-reliant, defiant Europe, one that is working on stepping up, Sally, its defense capabilities. Now, what was pledged? Well, it was announced that the 5 countries today they pledged to sign a deal onto developing low-cost air defenses in order to protect European skies, NATO skies, and it's an example of how Kallas said that Europe is already taking responsibility for that. Now, Boris Pistorius, Germany's defense minister, was particularly sharp on that, saying that that Germany itself will be providing for that 11.4 million euros alone. And of course, at the same time, Kallas did talk about certain challenges, particularly one of the continuous Russian hybrid threat. And she said that this is why, along with EU President Ursula von der Leyen, they are working on a new European security strategy, one to counter those Russian threats. Now, one thing that she did, of course, mention was that they've already tightened security, tightened the movements of Russian diplomats. They've stepped up actions against Russia's shadow fleet. That they've also deployed hybrid response teams to partner countries who are at risk. Now, I had a little moment when I actually asked them, though, following the conference, because they spoke so much about solidarity, about pledging these new low-cost air defense projects. But the reality is, Sally, is that Russia has already been testing NATO. They've been testing NATO skies, including in Poland. So I asked them on a very simple question. On a scale of 1 to 100, how ready is Europe if Russia were at this moment ready to test NATO again? And let's listen to a response that was given to me by 3 of those defense ministers.
If Russia were to test NATO, NATO would stand united. The E5 nations that we've had today, we stand united. And for nations further away from the eastern flank, as the United Kingdom is, we stand with all the nations on the NATO's eastern flank, and we will continue to support them for as long as it takes.
How ready are you, from 1 to 100, if you would have to shoot a number for Europeans, for the European people, on a scale from 1 to 100, how ready are you?
I'm sorry, it's not about numbers or percentages. It's about readiness and determination and resolve. Mm-hmm. And if we are provoked or offended, we will be able to defend ourselves. Mm-hmm. Be sure about that. Mm-hmm.
It is also a question of operational readiness, which is a very important element. This means strengthening our capabilities, our interoperability, and our overall operational effectiveness. By reinforcing our armed forces, enhancing our capacities, and improving interoperability, we ensure that we are fully prepared. This readiness is also one of our key motivations and a central focus of the work that we carry out together.
And we just heard it ourselves there. That particularly Boris Pistorius got a little bit nervous into answering the question, but he did say that Europe is ready at any given moment to deter these threats. Sally, the next E5 meeting will be held in Ankara before the summer. We don't have a concrete date yet, that was set, but they did say that that is where they hope, and where we hope, actually, if we see that the promises actually turn into action. Sally?
Kaja reporting from Krakow. Much appreciated. Thank you. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, the younger brother of Britain's King Charles, formerly known as Prince Andrew, was released from police custody on Thursday evening after being arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The arrest relates to allegations that he shared confidential government documents with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Mountbatten-Windsor has been released pending an investigation, meaning no charges have been filed at this stage, but inquiries continue.
Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor was released from police custody on Thursday evening, having been arrested earlier in the day on suspicion of misconduct in public office. In particular, the younger brother of King Charles was taken into custody over allegations of sharing confidential government documents with sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Media and police remain outside of former royals' residence.
I mean, it's not going to go away. Neither of the cases are going to go away. Certainly the investigation of what he sent emails to Epstein while he was a trade envoy for Britain, and it will be linked to possibly how Epstein made money, and maybe it's some of these deals that Epstein got through such information paid for his sex trafficking. I mean, the two are linked.
The king's brother lost his royal title following scrutiny over his ties to Epstein and the publication of a posthumous memoir by Virginia Giuffre, who is believed to be one of Epstein's victims. In the memoir, Giuffre claims that the former royal had sex with her on 3 separate occasions when she was a teenager. The arrest comes 3 weeks after the United States Department of Justice released over 3 million documents exposing Epstein's circle. Epstein was also associated with Trump, who commented on the former royal's arrest.
I think it's very sad. I think it's so bad for the royal family. It's a very, very sad. To me, it's a very sad thing. When I see that, it's a very sad thing. To see it and to see what's going on with his brother, who's obviously coming to our country very soon, and he's a fantastic man, the king. So I think it's a very sad thing. It's really interesting because nobody used to speak about Epstein when he was alive, but now they speak. But I'm the one that can talk about it because I've been totally exonerated. I did nothing. In fact, the opposite. He was against me.
Among the revelations stemming from the publication of the Epstein files was also a link to Velobank, Poland's 10th biggest bank. In particular, Velobank was bought for nearly 1,075 million Polish zloty. That is nearly $300 million by the Cerberus Capital Management, which also managed Epstein's assets. According to Polish newspaper Gazeta Wyborcza, the person behind the transaction is Steve Feinberg, U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense and close associate of Donald Trump. It is just one of the finance-oriented findings stemming from the files.
Epstein had apparently contacts with Russian oligarchs. He wanted to pull levers in Moscow. He wanted to meet Putin. We don't know why. Maybe he overestimated his ego and thought Putin would be pleased to meet him, but obviously that didn't transpire.
But the case is under continued examination and subject to further findings. The Polish government appointed a team to investigate possible domestic links to Epstein. The aim is to protect any potential Polish victims and examine whether any documents tied to Epstein point to connections with Russian intelligence, an issue that officials say could have national security implications.
President Donald Trump has stepped up his warnings to Iran, pressing the regime to scale back its nuclear program. He says 10 to 15 days should be enough time to reach a deal. At the same time, both sides are signaling they're ready for conflict if talks fall apart. Iran held annual military drills with Russia on Thursday, while a second U.S. aircraft carrier moved closer to the Middle East.
Speaking on board the Air Force One, U.S. President Donald Trump gave Tehran a deadline, 15 days to make a deal, or else.
Today on Iran, bad things will happen if Iran doesn't make
really bad things.
What will that?
I'm not going to talk to you about that.
Washington is determined to curb Iran's nuclear program.
Well, we'll either make a deal or we're going to get a deal one way or the other.
But experts question whether a major escalation is likely.
Rushing now into war, I don't think that is very likely, but what is sure is that the next 2 to 3 weeks are quite crucial and key, I think, and we'll see by the end, maximum of March, things resolve.
while also debating Trump's motives behind the recent U.S. military buildup in the Middle East.
I think that Trump does not really care about toppling the regime per se. It cares about what positive impact it will have on himself. Trump, I don't believe he's looking for a permanent deal. He's looking for a realistic deal that the Iranians would accept, which would mean, for example, a 3 to 5 year freeze of the high-level nuclear enrichment, which would cover, coincidentally, Trump's term.
One thing is clear about both Washington's and Tehran's recent military displays.
Everything is about showing muscles. Knowing if Russia will come to Iran's aid, this is unsure. I don't think that now we can make suppositions about that. What is sure is that if the US strike, it will be fast, and then Iran will retaliate. Chances are that Iran will retaliate alone, and this would have major impact on global economy, on the global oil exchange.
The question remains, if a full-scale conflict breaks out, who will be rushing to help, and to whose side? Tensions continue rising while the world is watching, preparing for all possible scenarios. Polish authorities have urged their citizens to leave Iran immediately and abstain from traveling to the country.
And now on a domestic note, Warsaw Chopin Airport is set for a multi-million euro expansion by 2029, even though it's expected to close just 3 years later, when Poland's new massive air and rail hub takes over the passenger traffic. There was plenty of celebration at the Warsaw Airport today, as the authorities secured financing for the long-awaited upgrade. Konrad Gorliński reports.
A lot of celebration at the Warsaw Chopin Airport today, as the airport authority has managed to secure a much-needed financing for a multi-million euro expansion. The airport here behind me served 24 million passengers in 2025. That's 13% over the previous year. And this rate of growth is expected to continue. Problem is, the airport is already running at almost full capacity. So something needs to be done, and fast.
Today is a really important day in our history. We got more than 90 years history, and today we are celebrating signing the agreement with the crucial Polish financial institution on 3.3 billion Polish zlotys. This 3.3 billion zlotys is really important for us because this is the fuel in our investments.
Oh, there is a rub here, however. Poland is already working on a multi-billion euro project called Port Poland, which is set to open its doors in 2032. But the expansion here won't be complete till 2029. And when Port Poland begins operation, this place is set for demolition. That leaves just 3 years for the investment to pay off. The airport authority and the infrastructure ministry, of course, assured that this is a sound business decision. But we asked the bankers funding the project what they think.
We are really proud that we participate in this investment project. And what is the most important for us is that the business plan is very strong. So we strongly believe in this project, and we are safe as a bank to invest our money in development of this infrastructure.
Either way, the decision has been made, and contractors have submitted their final bids today. For TVP World, I'm Konrad Gorliński.
And as we approach the closing weekend of the 2026 Winter Olympics, our sports reporter John Carter has the latest from events in northern Italy. Over to you, John.
Thank you very much, Sally. And we kick off our report, first of all, with a dramatic day on the ice yesterday, and in particular with the speed skating 1,500 metres, in which the Olympic record fell twice. Now, at one stage, it did appear as if Poland's Władysław Serhii might be on for a medal, as he was leading the field at the halfway stage. However, in the end, it was Ning Zhongyang of China who took the gold, and surprisingly finished ahead of the usually ever-dominant US skater Jordan Stoltz. Now, Serhii won silver in the 10,000 metres last week, but given the dearth of talent, I think, in the Polish squad overall, it perhaps has been a little underwhelming, the overall performance. And so Friday will see the penultimate day in the speed skating, and Poland's most decorated female, Natalia Malishevska, will take to the ice. Now, Malishevska will be hoping to reverse her fortunes after crashing out in her specialist event, which is the 500 metres. So today she's taking part in the 1500 metres. Now, elsewhere at the Games, and this evening's two-women bobsleigh is going to be a historic occasion. And that's because Klaudia Adamek will be participating, and she's going to become Poland's first ever participant at both the Winter and the Summer Olympics. Now, Adamek participated in the 4x100 metre relay back in the 2021 Summer Olympics in Tokyo. And it is her elite sprint speed, which is exactly what makes her such a valuable push athlete in the bobsleigh. Very much a sport which is heavily reliant on that powerful start, which is so critical in the bobsleigh. Now, while Polish eyes are going to be firmly fixed on the bobsleigh and the speed skating, all of Slovakian eyes are going to be on the ice hockey. So the ice hockey this evening will take place, the semi-final between Slovakia and the United States. It's been a remarkable achievement by the Slovakians to have got to this stage. And if they can go one step further, then they'll be in the gold medal match, where they'll be set to face either Canada or Finland. Now, it just leaves time for just to round up with a look at the medal table. And as we can see, table toppers remain Norway. Don't think anybody's going to catch them at this point. However, yesterday, the United States leapfrogged the host nation, Italy, into second place. And you can see there, the Czechs are still down there on 16th, the Poles in 21st, and the Latvians in 24th. Now, that is all for me. For the time being, now it's back to Sally.
John Carter, thank you so very much for this update. And with this, we conclude Midday Report. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for more.